Hi everyone, welcome to the Coding Channel. Today is the 17th episode of our Java programming tutorial series. And in this episode, we are going to build a top student grade Finder app by using the for loop or while loop with an if-else statements and highlights the use of break and continue statements as well as the column output in Java. This and more, we come back. Now let me show you the sample run of our source code for this episode, which is building the top student grade Finder application. Okay, so and let's say for example student name 1, we're going to enter it. Let's say we have Mark and then 90.5 for example, and then we have Luke 93.7. And then we have James 92.8 for example, and then we have Matthew, which is 98.9. okay, and then we have for example Mary, and then the grade is 97.5. And then suppose our top student grade finder will actually get from one student name 1 to 100, but let's try it first to let's say 5 input. So if the user for example have entered another name, if the user have entered -1 as the grade here, our application will be terminated and will display the following. We'll display the student's name. We have a column output here, and also in the determining the top 3 students. Let's try to double check. The top here is 98.9 Matthew. Okay, so we correct. We have Mary 97.5 followed by Luke, which is 93.7. Okay, so this is the source code that we are going to build for this episode, and that's going to, if you're ready, let's start now. Okay, now the first thing that we need to do is what? If you try it, since we are using the input and output console input and output, so we will be needing the scanner class here. Let's say a scanner is equal to new scanner, and then System.in. Then we have the semicolon, and then after that, take note that every time we use the scanner class, we need to import it. So you just have to hover, and then that's it. That's under the java.util scanner. Okay. Now, by the way, this episode, in this episode, there are a lot of ways on how to solve this type of problem, or to build this top student grade Finder app. But in episode 17, this is the episode where we are going to incorporate and be limited on the learnings that we have discussed so far from episode 1 up to episode 16, which is by using the conditional statements. We have an if else statements, using the comparison, for example, we have for loop, while loop, do while, the switch. Okay, so we haven't tackled any Java arrays yet. If you know it already, or even the methods. So our goal here is just to present to you one way of solving this problem without using an array. Okay, and soon, as we discuss it in our next episode, for example, so we can try to modify this, okay, by using an array, for example, so for you to differentiate. Okay, at least you have now the options. Okay, so let's start again. So as after the scanner, we have now here the first output. Okay, that is by using the system dot out dot print, for example, or let's say print ln. I'm gonna use the that's top student student grade finder app. Okay, and then semicolon. That's it. And then that's the first output statement that we have there. Okay, what else? From student 1 to 5, for example, we have the repetition. Okay, so instead of having that, since our program, our application here is capable of handling 100 numbers, so it's about time to declare the while loop. Okay, that we can also use the for loop later. Okay, we will first use the while loop. Okay, and how are we going to do that? Let's say we have a counter as we have an initial value here. Okay, and then we will try to test the value of counter while counter is less than or equal to, if you want to have a repetition of 100, so just put it there, less than 100. Okay, and then aside from initialization condition, since we are using the while loop, okay, we already have tackled this one. We need to increment the value of counter so that we will not have the infinite loop later. Okay, so our counter is ready for the input. And after, what are the next thing that we need to consider here is that what are the possible codes that we're going to include within our while. Okay, so this is the these are the output statements and the input statement. Output and input. So for example, we have here student name. Okay, and we will put that in a system.out that print ln, for example. Okay, we have there student name 1, student name. Okay, student name. So take note, the 1, the 2, 3, 4, 5 here. Okay, we will use the counter variable since the counter varies from 1 to 100. Okay, so we will have a string concatenation operator here. So student plus the counter variable, okay, plus the double quote. Okay, and then the space, for example, there. Okay, you have to have to put a space there. Okay, and then it's about time to, after displaying it, what if the user have entered mark, for example? So it's about time now to get the user input. And how are we going to do that? Okay, we need to declare variables first here. Okay, so I'll just put here the variable declaration. Okay, what are the variables? First, the student name. We can declare a string variables, for example, for student name there, and then I suggest that you put an initial value whenever you double quote there, and then the semicolon. Okay, and then aside from the student name, we also have what? The student grade. Okay, and since we're talking of decimal points there, we can use double and then the student grade, for example, and we initialize it to just let's say 0.0. Okay, as the initial value. Okay, that's it. So we will be needing it here, and it's about time to use it. So student name, we assign whatever we read from the user input, and we will be using the scanner object here. Okay, the scanner that, and then to read the string, we can use the next. Okay, so that's how the output and input statements now. Okay, I'll just have to copy this. Okay, to read also the student grade. Okay, so for example, we have here a grade counter. Okay, so grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, student grade 3, and this one I just have to use the student grade. Okay, I have now the input statements. Okay, so what's next? Take note that the next step is, of course, to compare. Okay, so let's say 90.5, we need to compare it to the previous value of, or to the current value of our student grade. So we will be needing an if statements here. So if student grade, which is the current value of student grade, or the first input of the user, if student grade is greater than what? Okay, so we will be needing another variables, okay, for, let's say, because we need now to compare. We want to have the uh, top one student grade. So we have top one grade, for example. Okay, let's just shorten it there. The top one grade, and initialize it to 0, 0.0. What else? We will be needing the top two grade. Okay, and then also the top one, the top two, and the top three. Okay, top one, 0, 0.0, for example, comma, and then the top three grade equals 0, 0.0 also. Then semicolon. Okay, that's it. The top one. Okay, so top one, top two, top three, and then grade. And also, aside from the top one, top two, top three grade, we also be needing the names of those top three students. Okay, so let's try to have a string here. This time a top one name. Okay, and then initialize it to, for example, to empty string. Let's just try to copy this one, and let's just have the top two, for example, and then this one for the top three, and you initialize it and then put semicolon after. So you have the string there for student name, and top one, top two, top three names, and then okay, so far so good. So let's continue. So if student grade is what? If student grade, I just have to put there, is greater than the what? The top one grade. Okay, so top one grade. If it's greater than the top one grade, what are we going to do? Okay. We all know that if it's greater, the first thing that comes into our mind is to assign it, of course. To assign it to what? To top one grade. So we can say top one grade is equal to the student grade. Okay. And let's check if it's already correct. So for the first iteration, this one is this if condition works fine. Okay, let's try. For example, we are now in the second iteration. Okay, and the value of counter is 2. So let's read the student number 2. So we have now the new name, which is Luke for student name, and the student grade, for example, number 2 is 93.7. So it's about time to compare for the second time around. If student grade, which is now 93.7, is greater than top one so far, okay, since we assign it during the first iteration, we are trying now to compare the 93.7 to 90.5. If it is greater, so what? So if we have this type of assignment statement here, okay, we will going to assign 93.7 as the new value of top one grade. This one is correct, okay? But the problem here is that, what about the 90.5? If we only have this assignment statement here, the 90.5 will be now replaced or be deleted, okay? Will now be replaced with 93.7. And we need the 90.5 for the top 2 grade, okay? And then aside from that, what if we are now on the third iteration? Okay, let's try to analyze this very carefully. Okay. If we are now on the third iteration, the next input is 92.8. 92.8, if you're trying to compare it to the first, to the top one grade so far, which is 93.7, 92.8 is not greater than, but 92.8 is greater than the top 2 grade so far, which is 90.5. And the 90.5, our goal is this would be now the new value of the top 3 grade. from the default value of 0.0. So with this analysis, it seems that we need to assign first since we are talking of top 3 only. Okay, so we need to assign first the previous value of before we assign, okay, the new value to top 1 grade. We need to assign first the previous value of the top 2 uh, grade to top 3 grade. Okay, it's like it looks like this. So top 3 grade is equal to the previous value of top 2 grade. Okay, something like that. And then the top 2 grade is equal to the previous value of the top one grade. So that if we assign, for example, the 93.7 to top 1 grade, okay, we save the 90.5 as the which is the previous value of top 1 grade to top 2 grade, and so on. Okay, so that's how it works. The top 3 grade is now the previous value of is now having the previous value of top 2 grade, and the top 2 grade will now have the value of top 1 grade. Okay, so let's try continue. Now, we are now again in the third iteration. So what if the 92.8 is not greater than the top 1 grade, but we all know based from these 3 inputs that 92.8 is greater than the top 2 grade, which is 90.5 so far. So there's a possibility that the input is not greater than the top 1, but greater than the top 2. So in that case, we will be needing another else if statement here. Okay? Yes, there is a possibility that the input is not greater than the top 1 grade, but possibly greater than the top 2 grade. That's how we do this. So what will happen now? Before we assign, same logic on what we did in the first if. Okay, so if the student grade is greater than the top 2 grade, before we assign the top 2 grade, a new value of the student grade, okay, make sure that we assign first to top 3 grade, okay, the previous value of the top 2 grade. Okay, that's it. Okay, and then there is a possibility that the input is not greater than the top 1 grade and not also greater than the top 2 grade, but it's greater than the current value of top 3 grade. So in that case again, okay, we can have another else if here. So else if the student grade is what? If the student grade is greater than top 3, what are we going to do? If it's greater than top 3, so top 3 grade is equal to the student grade, to the new student grade. Okay, makes sense? Okay, so far, so that's it. Okay, so we have now based from this if else statements, we have now assigned the top 3 grades. So what about the names? We will be needing also the names. Okay, if the top 1 grade is 98.9, so we need to display Matthew as also as the name of that as the student having that 98.9 grade. Okay, so we will be using the same logic. Okay, so if student grade, since we are basing the grade here, so if there's a changes in the value of the top 3, 2, and 1 grade, so we need also to change the order, okay, the values of our top names. So we have top 1 name, top 2 name, and top 3 names. Okay, so it's like having just have to copy this one instead of grade, so we will just have to replace it with name. So the previous value of tab2 name will be now assigned to tab3 name, and the previous value of tab2 name will now be assigned to the previous value of tab1 name, and the tab1 name now, okay, will have the value of student, the correct value of student name. Okay, and then same thing here. We're talking of top 3 name is equal to top 2 name, and then the top 2 name here will get now the what, the student, the new student name. In the event that if the student grade is greater than top 3 grade, so the top 3 name is also the new student name. Okay, so that's how we analyze it. Okay. Now our next task is to display this one. How are we going to display this one in column format? The student's name, the student's grade. Okay, and take note, whatever every time, okay, all the inputs here, okay, we are going to display all the inputs here, including the name and the grade. Okay, we can solve that problem by adding here another string. Okay, so since we don't use here, we're not going to use the arrays here. Okay, for those who know arrays while watching this episode, okay, our substitute for array is the using string. Okay, and how are we going to do that? Let's say we have the output string. Okay, and the initial value is this one. It's like the table heading. Okay, the student's name and the student's grade. So I just have to put here the student's name, and then let me just okay, if you remember the use of tab there in our if I'm not mistaken, second episode. Okay, we talk about the escape sequence of Java. Okay, the tab, the /t for tab, and then we have the student's grade. Okay, then after displaying the student's grade, okay, we will be having there the \n, so that the next string that we're going to concatenate from this initial value of output string will be now printed on the next line. Okay, that's our goal. Okay, and then of course the semicolon. And where are we going to insert the output string? Okay, so let's try. After reading, okay, we read this one, and then if ever we have here the if statement, so we can just actually put here, okay, that the output string, for example, is equal, because we are still inside of the while loop. Take note, okay, because every iteration we need to concatenate. Okay, so take note of that. Okay, we are still inside of the let's just try to put comments here so that would help us, that this curly brace is for the while loop, this one is for the end of main, for example, and this one is end of our class. So output string is equal to the previous value of output string. Okay, so that's the meaning of this assignment statement. Plus, so we are now going to concatenate. Plus what? The new value. The new value of what? Plus the new value of the student name and then the student grade. So we'll put here the student name. Okay. Plus, take note, after here, we have the tabs here. So let's try, most probably that's using 2 tabs there. So we can just have the 2 tab there, plus the student's grade. The student grade. Okay, and then let's just try a semicolon there. Okay, so that's how we, okay. Then after displaying this, take note, there's a new line. Okay, so we have to concatenate again the backslash n, okay, plus backslash n. So new line. And then, so next iteration, when the Java interpreter execute this statement, this assignment statement, so the value of output string now is, for example, all this. Yeah, okay. So for the second iteration, by having the student name, then the tab, and the student grade, we are concatenating this one, look, with 93.7 to the previous value of output string, which is the student's name, student's grade mark, and 90.5. Okay, that's how simple it is there. That's, but take note, we're not printing it yet because we haven't used any System.out.println here. So later we will have an output statement here. Okay, here we will just put it here before we end the main. We are still inside of our while loop. Okay, so we have done the output string, and then what's next? This one. Okay, let's talk about this one, because our while here will ask the user to enter from 1 to 100 students name and grade. Okay, but if you are going to decide, for example, we are on the student number 6, okay, and if you type the -1 as value of student grade, our program will be terminated and will display whatever we have already entered there. Okay, as you can see in our sample run. Okay, so that can be solved by using the break statements. Okay, take note that in our previous episode, we have used the break statements inside of our switch. Okay, but we can also use the break statement or the break keyword within the while loop or for loop. Okay, that which only means that we will not finish the looping. Okay, once the Java interpreter have you know, read the break statements, it will break out of this loop and will read whatever statements that we have outside of this loop. That's what it means. Okay, so where are we going to insert the break statements here? So if after this one, we can insert there, or yeah, because if the student have entered a -1, we are not going to compare anymore. Okay, so this is, for me, this in this line is the right the right area where we could insert the if statement for break. So if what? If a student grade, okay, is equal to -1, what are we going to do? We need to print first the, okay, so we can just have to put their System.out that for example, println program terminated, okay, and then okay, by just putting a break there, so meaning we will not going to continue, we will get out of that loop, okay, or break out of that loop, and we will proceed to the statements outside. So far we don't have any statements there yet. Okay, but that's how we do it. Okay, and then for example, since we have the initial value of 0 here, and if we want our program to check, okay, if we have entered a 0, that means that's an invalid input. Okay, so we can also assign it here. Either we can use if or else if, for example. Let's try the else if, for example, here. So else if student grade is equal, okay, it's equal to what? To 0. Okay, If student grade is equal to 0, what are we going to do? Okay, we will print, for example, system.out.println. Okay, we will print that is an invalid input. Okay, that is an invalid input. And then, after displaying it, okay, we will not break out of this loop. We are still continuing the loop. Okay, but we will ask, for example, if we have entered Matthew, okay, and then for the student grade 4, we have entered, for example, 0. Okay, so our program, our goal is uh, to not to exit from this within this while loop. Okay, but instead we are going to ask another name of student name for again. If it's Matthew again, just in case the user have mistyped, the grade of Matthew, so we will go back to the current value of counter, which is still student name for example. Okay, so that is possible by using the continue. So that's the difference of break and continue statements. So with continue, we are not going to exit or break out from this loop, but instead, we will continue, we will ask again, but take note, okay? We will ignore this, we will not add one to counter, so that we can go back to the current value of counter. Like for example, the current value of counter is 4. We are going to ask the user to enter the student name for again. Okay, that is possible if we use continue within while. Because in my observation here later, if you're going to use continue in for loop, the output is different. Okay, I'll show you later. Okay, for now using while, so that's the effect, which is that's what we want. Okay, in our application here. And also, if the user have entered a 0, we will not include it in our list of students here. Like for instance, we have Matthew. Okay, so if you're not going to drop it, our output will have Matthew 0 and then Matthew 98.9. So to prevent that from happening, we can also put an if here. Okay, so if what? If the user have, if the grade, we're talking of student grade, so if student grade um, is not equal to 0, okay, that's the only time that we assign, okay, the student name, the student grade here. That's the only time we concatenate. That's what I want to say. Okay, and then here we go. The next step now. Okay, we're done with this. Okay, let's try. I want to run this only once or twice, so I'm just making it sure that our code is now okay. So that's how we do it. Okay, then the last is the output. Okay, if we are going to display this one now, okay, so everything uh, is inside of our output string. So we can just simply type system.out.println, for example, and then just put there the output string variable. That's how simple it is. Okay, now if we want to display now the top 3 students, okay, the heading, okay, we are now going to use the printf method. Okay, so this is then a new method that we're going to introduce here in our channel. Okay, the use of printf method, because we can use this method to format the output in like for example in table format. Okay, now let me discuss it with you first. We put the percent sign here within the double quote. Okay, for example, we are going to display the top 3 students. Okay, this one, and this one is a string, so we put percent and then s. Okay, and why I put negative 20 here? Because I just want to have 20 spaces including white space. Okay, from here, and since I put negative, it only means that I want to have the left aligned. Okay, so it should be left aligned here. If I put positive there, the output is right aligned. Okay, and then next, so percent sign, since I have a after of this first parameter, the second and third would be the string also for the string that we are going to display, right? So the grade, for example. So I set the grade with a percent sign and the -20 also. Okay, so meaning from here or wherever is the 20 spaces from the left. Okay, so we'll start the 20 again from the left. Okay, not from the left, from here. Okay, so 20, like the 21, so that's the start of the second string. Okay, so that's 20, and the negative meaning left align also. And then since we use printf, okay, for us to have the new line after printing this, so we put the \n here. Okay, and for the second line here, for example, Matthew, okay, the top one, okay, we can use also another printf here. Okay, so printf, so one, we just put one there, and then percent sign, let's say 20 spaces also. This one is string, and then percent sign -20 for this one for 98.90, and take note we use f for float. Okay, so this one is a string, so that's why we have s there, and then this one is f for float. Okay, why I put 20 then 0.2 here? Okay, the 0.2 here means that I want to have to display the grade with 2 decimal places, because by default this one has a 6 decimal places by default. Okay, so that's how it works. So top one name, and then top one grade. Okay, and then we just have to just copy this one for 2. This one is for top 2 name, and then for top 2 grade, and then another, for example, okay, we have the 3. This one is for top 3 name, and then top 3 grade. Okay, so we're done yet? We're done now. Let's try to run our program now. Okay. Okay, to run this, okay, we have an error. We have type mispatch, line 22, line 22. Okay, since we forgot to change the next to next double, because we are reading the double type now. Okay, that's how we solve it. And then here we go. Okay, let's try. We have, for example, Mark, and then the student grade, we have 90.5. Okay, we have student name 2. We have, let's say, Luke with a grade of 89.6. And then student number 3, let's say we enter Mary with a grade of 0. Since 0, just for us to try to continue there. Okay, that's invalid input, but take note we are still on the student name 3. Okay, so that's correct. And then, for example, we enter Mary again with the correct grade. Let's say 98.7. Okay, and then student number 4, for example, we have John, and then we have 99.5. And then for student name 5, we have, for example, Matthew. Okay, and then but this time we want to exit. Okay, so that's all. For example, by using -1 using break. Let's try. Okay, so program terminated, and then students name here, we have now Mark, Luke, Mary, and John. Mark, we've entered Mark, Luke, Mary. Take note we have two entry here of Mary, but since we have the if statements here, if not equal to 0, okay, so we did not include in our output here the Mary with the 0 student grade. Okay, that's the use of our if there. And then also let's try. Okay, so 90.5, the grade there, 89, 98.7, 99.5. So The top is John, which is 99.5, then 98.7 Mary, and then 90.5 Mark. Okay, and you only have some just few for examples for the student name. So maybe we will just use their instead of print ln, just use a print and then another print here. Okay, so let's try. For example, we have student name there, okay, Mark. Okay, and then for the grade we have 89.9. Okay, and then for the student name, okay, that's it. Or if we want to have a backslash n there after, for example, after printing, okay, we can also do it, loop, and then for example -1 to break. Okay, so that's it. And now also I just want to show you the difference of using continue inside of the four statements, right? So let's try to edit this one. Okay, for example, I use a for loop here, and then using for loop, the initialization, we put it here, and then the condition, next, and then semicolon. We will just delete the while now, and the counter plus plus here, we will just put this one inside here. Okay, that's the syntax of for loop without a column there. Okay, so now we are using a for loop, so we will just test the effect of continue if we use the for loop. Okay, let's try. So let's try to run again. Okay, so Mark, we have 90.7. For example, for Luke, we have 89.8. And then student name 3, okay, we have Mary, for example, and the grade is 0. Okay, take note of this. The grade is 0. Using while, we have student name 3. But here, using for loop with continue statements, okay, we skip the grade 3 and we are now on the student name 4. Okay, if we're going to continue this, let's say John, and then we have 90.6. Okay, and then we have Matthew, and then we for example we try to break out of the for loop. Okay, so we also have program terminated. The Mark is 90.7, Luke 89.8, 90.6 John. So Mary is already skipped there, and we have 90.7, 90, and 89.8. Same. That's how we build the top student grade finder app by using the while loop and the for loop with the string concatenation here in displaying the output using the print and print ln method. Okay, and using tab if you want to display it in table format. But there's also another way of doing it by using the printf method by having this type of syntax here. Okay, so that's all the source code for this episode. And that's all for today. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And as always, show your love through comments and favorites. God bless and thank you for watching.